Meet Haruka Sakura, a high schooler who starts his day literally walking the tightrope of life, or at least dreaming about it. In his nightmare, faceless strangers jeer at him, judging him by his rugged looks and labeling him a delinquent. He jolts awake, sweat-drenched and haunted by these eerie visions. Cut to the bustling Tanpu shopping street, where graffiti covers the walls and Sakura philosophizes about the strong versus the weak. He doesn't just talk the talk. When he spots some gang members bullying a woman, he dives headfirst into the action, delivering fiery punches that send the thugs to dreamland. Names Haruka Sakura of Furin High, he declares triumphantly to the unconscious bodies, like a true action hero. The grateful woman introduces herself as Kotoha and insists on treating him to a meal, much to Sakura's awkward embarrassment. Over a plate of omuris, she shares the town's turbulent history of gang wars and turf battles. Despite his tough exterior, Sakura finds himself surprised by Kotoha's genuine curiosity about his half-and-half appearance and her lack of fear about his delinquent tendencies. As they chat, Sakura hands an old man his forgotten bag, showing a glimpse of his hidden kindness. But Kotoha drops a truth bomb. Sakura won't survive at Furin High alone. It's a dog-eat-dog world, and teamwork is key. Soon enough, trouble brews again as the same gang members return to wreak havoc on the neighborhood, smashing windows and causing chaos. The townsfolk retreat indoors and secretly summon their protectors. Fueled by Kotoha's words about loneliness, Sakura charges in solo to fight the gang. His heroic attempt falters when Kotoha is taken hostage, leaving him cornered. Just as a baseball bat threatens to meet his face, a mysterious man swoops in and saves the day. Cue the dramatic entrance of Furin High students, aka the Bofurin Squad. These stylish defenders of the neighborhood arrive on motorcycles and make quick work of the gang, earning cheers from the residents. Kotoha explains to a stunned Sakura that the Bofurin have transformed the town, bringing peace by protecting its people. Post-battle, the locals warmly thank the Bofurin, but Sakura, ever the lone wolf, feels out of place. He brushes off the townspeople's kindness, unsure how to navigate this unexpected camaraderie. Kotoha urges him to open up, but Sakura, being Sakura, charges at the gang leader instead, his determination blazing like his fists. Sakura's day takes an unexpected and mildly infuriating turn as he's roped into giving a ride, grandma style, to an elderly lady while entering Kotoha's restaurant. Inside, Kotoha works her magic, whipping up a sandwich that looks almost as good as her snarky remarks. Sakura, ever the blush king, turns crimson at her relentless teasing, his expression a mix of awkwardness and, please stop, but also don't. Before Sakura can fully recover, a burst of chaos enters the scene. Literally. A bright, yellow-haired tornado named Nirei stumbles in, face-planting with the grace of a falling piano. This clumsy first-year Furin student is bursting with enthusiasm for his new school, and when he spots Sakura, it's instant fascination. Nirei marvels at Sakura's striking hair, mistaking its white streaks as a sign of stress. Sakura bristles, sensing a threat, but the hilarity only escalates as Nirei makes things worse with quips about Sakura going bald if he tries too hard to rise to the top. Kotoha, of course, revels in the chaos, watching Sakura's patience and pride evaporate. After Nirei leaves, Sakura grumbles to Kotoha about people like him, seemingly strong but weak inside. Kotoha, ever the wise tease, uses a coffee analogy. Just as the red coffee fruit transforms into brown beans, people may have layers worth understanding. As Sakura heads out, he's showered with gratitude and gifts from the townsfolk for protecting them. A new and awkward experience for the lone wolf. Amid this, a girl approaches him for help. Turns out, Nirei has been trying, and failing, to fend off some bullies harassing her. Just as things look grim for Nirei, Sakura swoops in, delivering a masterclass in bully beatdowns with his fists. Nirei is equal parts awestruck and crushed, blaming himself for being weak. He confesses that he was bullied in middle school until a Furin student saved him, inspiring him to be like the heroes of the town. This heartfelt confession melts Sakura's tough guy exterior, and he recalls Kotoha's advice. In a rare moment of vulnerability, Sakura tells Nirei he's not lame. The girl thanks them both, and Sakura? Well, he just might have found his first friend. The next day, the dynamic duo heads to Furin High for their first day. Nirei's excitement hits new heights when he spots his favorite fighters in their class, though one particularly dangerous-looking student, Kyotaro, puts him on edge. Enter Suwa, a cheerful classmate with a knack for pranks and terrible jokes, who cracks everyone up with his ridiculous antics. When it seems like Suwa might challenge Sakura to a fight, he flips the script, welcoming both Sakura and Nirei with surprising warmth. For a school full of delinquents, this feels oddly friendly. But the peace is short-lived. A table flies across the room, hurled by none other than Kyotaro. With a devilish smirk, Kyotaro makes it clear he's itching for a brawl, and Sakura's fists seem just as ready. It's clear, Furin High isn't going to be boring anytime soon. Chaos erupts on Sakura's first day as he and Tsujishita get into a heated scuffle. The reason? Suwa, ever the class clown, explains that Tsujishita is a die-hard fanboy of Bofurin's leader and crew. In fact, Tsujishita was so devoted in middle school that he was the only honorary member allowed to be called part of Bofurin. So when Sakura dared to declare his ambitions to rise to the top, Tsujishita took it as a direct insult to the man who stands at the top and launched his attack. To everyone's shock, Sakura lands a kick on Tsujishita, bringing their clash to a halt, just in time for an announcement. Enter Hajime Umemiya, Bofurin's revered representative, whose mere presence makes the entire room freeze in respect. Umemiya, ever the peacemaker, calmly tells the newcomers to chill, enjoy their first day, and focus on protecting the town instead of starting fights. What follows is pure comedy gold. Tsujishita, bloodied but loyal, nods like a devout follower and frantically tries to wipe his face clean now that his idol has spoken. With Suwa playing mediator, Sakura and Tsujishita shake hands with such dramatic emotion it could rival a soap opera reunion. The mood lightens as Sakura's classmates excitedly shower him with praise for his fighting skills. For the first time, Sakura feels a sense of belonging, his usual tough guy demeanor softening into a rare smile. But peace is short-lived as their seniors summon the class outside. The group meets Hiragi, their class captain and one of Bofurin's 4 kings. Hiragi is hilariously uptight, scolding them for their tardiness down to the millisecond. Sakura recognizes him as the mysterious man who saved him and Kotoha earlier, but when someone dares to mention Kotoha, Hiragi panics and shuts them up. He cryptically mutters about the chaos that would ensue if Umemiya found out Kotoha was in danger, declaring it would have him coughing blood. Cue Hiragi popping stomach pills called gaskuin like candy. Meanwhile, Nirei, ever the fanboy, diligently jots down the gaskuin lore in his Bofurin journal, adding another layer of hilarity to the scene. Nirei takes it upon himself to educate Sakura about Bofurin's structure. At the top is Umemiya, followed by the 4 kings, each overseeing a class and a grade. Hiragi, as one of the 4 kings, heads their class, which belongs to the Taman team. Much to Sakura's dismay, their first assignment isn't the action-packed drama he imagined. Instead, they patrol the town, repainting graffiti-covered walls and helping shopkeepers. His disappointment reaches peak comedy as he grumbles through the menial tasks, muttering about his lack of brawls. The group reaches the town's boundary, marked by a tunnel separating Bofurin's territory from Shishiturin's. Nirei frantically warns Sakura not to cross into Shishiturin's domain, explaining that unlike Bofurin's protective heroics, Shishiturin is a ruthless group whose name literally translates to devotees of power. Things escalate quickly when they spot a beaten student from Bofurin's side being chased by Shishiturin members. Without hesitation, Sakura and Tsujishita leap into action, landing kicks on the aggressors. Everyone watching is horrified, as this bold move risks sparking a full-blown turf war. Enter Togame, Shishiturin's second-in-command, whose presence radiates pure menace. At first, Togame appears surprisingly laid-back, but his demeanor shifts as he brutally beats his own teammate for being weak. Sakura nearly throws down with Togame, but the latter walks away with a chilling promise to fight Sakura at the right time. Hiragi, now thoroughly stressed, downs another handful of Gaskuin pills as the group takes the injured middle schooler to report to Umemiya. And where do they find the legendary leader of Bofurin? Tending to his rooftop vegetable garden, of course. Umemiya's cheerful, childlike demeanor is hilariously at odds with his reputation, leaving everyone, including Sakura, speechless. Suwa, never one to miss a chance for a joke, quips that Umemiya looks like a kindergarten kid. Hilariously extended scene of Umemiya obsessing over his leafy vegetables for 5 minutes straight, much to the group's collective bewilderment. As Sakura watches this green thumb display, he has an epiphany. Hiragi's constant stomach issues aren't from stress, they're from having to endure Umemiya's endless chatter without being able to get a word in. Amidst this vegetable-fueled chaos, Sasaki, the boy Bofurin rescued, finally manages to get a word in. He recounts how he chased a shoplifter, only to accidentally wander into Shishi's territory. That's when the bullies turned on him, leading to Sakura and Sujishida's heroic intervention. Umemiya praises Sasaki for his bravery and compassion in protecting the town, which leaves Sakura reflecting on why everyone respects their leader so deeply. But when Sakura calls Shishin lame, Umemiya, in his signature laid-back style, ruffles Sakura's hair and thanks him for protecting his family. Cue Sakura blushing so hard he looks like one of Umemiya's tomatoes, while Sujishida burns with jealousy over the affectionate gesture. The warm camaraderie is short-lived, though, as trouble comes barreling through Furin High, literally. Shishin's leader, Choji Tomiyama, storms onto the scene, effortlessly defeating students left and right in his search for a worthy opponent. Tomiyama looks like a mischievous kindergartner who got too much sugar but fights like an untouchable pro. Bored of being the best in Shishin, he demands a showdown with Umemiya. This arrival flips Umemiya's vibe from jovial gardener to commanding leader in an instant. Even Sakura, who usually doesn't back down from anyone, finds himself deferring to Umemiya's authority. Tomiyama proposes one-on-one fights to settle things. Himself versus Umemiya, Togame versus Sakura, and so on. The challenge is accepted, and the stakes are set. Later, at Kotoha's cafe, apparently the official Bofurin fight planning HQ, the gang regroups. Nirei is in full-on meltdown mode, dubbing the impending fight a doomsday event, while Suwa casually explains that the cafe is a pre-fight ritual spot for the crew. Enter Umemiya and Hiragi, and suddenly, the dynamic shifts yet again. Umemiya transforms into a full-blown Kotoha fanboy, doting on her like an overprotective big brother. Kotoha clears up the confusion, explaining that they grew up in the same group home and share a sibling-like bond. Hiragi, meanwhile, pulls Sakura aside for a little backstory and a serious warning. If Umemiya ever finds out Kotoha was in danger, they're all doomed. Hiragi's melodramatic delivery, complete with threats of coughing up blood, only adds to the comedic tension. We also discover that Kotoha is the same age as Sakura and the other first years, though her maturity and sharp wit often make her seem older. Amid the pre-battle banter, Hiragi reminisces about the good old days of fighting Shishin, back when their skirmishes felt like thrilling tests of strength. But ever since Tomiyama took over, Shishin has grown ruthless, picking fights for domination rather than honor. As the conversation shifts, Umemiya gives his unique take on fighting. It's not just a brawl, it's a conversation, a way to truly understand your opponent. This quirky perspective sets the tone as Bofurin prepares to cross the bridge into Shishin territory the next day. Ready for their talk? Team Bofurin strides into Shishin's turf, and it's immediately clear they've entered a different world. Graffiti-covered walls and shuttered pubs line the streets, creating a stark contrast to Bofurin's well-kept territory. Their destination? Shishin's notorious hangout, a crumbling, abandoned theater ominously named the Orion. Only the letters Ori remain visible, translating to cage, which feels fitting for the tense atmosphere inside. Inside, the theater is chaotic. Shishin members fill the seats, hooting and hollering, while Choji, perched dramatically on stage, has turned the scene into what Umemiya aptly calls a gala. Despite the dilapidated setting, Choji is as animated as ever, clapping like a kid at a birthday party. The first match begins with Sugishita stepping up to face his opponent. Nirei, ever the worrier, frets over Sugishita's chances, especially since his rival is infamous for one-punch knockouts. But Umemiya remains unbothered, exuding confidence in his team. The fight starts on a shocking note. Sugishita's opponent cleverly distracts him by mentioning Umemiya, landing a brutal punch when Sugishita glances away. Everyone gasps, assuming the fight is over. But Sugishita, seemingly unfazed, rises with a smirk. With perfect composure, he counters with a devastating punch of his own, knocking his opponent out cold. To top it off, he quips about how to properly address Umemiya as Umemiya-san, earning laughs from his team and stunned silence from the opposition. Choji, however, couldn't be happier. He cheers for the show of strength, though the unconscious Shishin fighter is unceremoniously dragged off stage like a discarded prop. Next up is Suwa, whose mysterious reputation precedes him. His opponent is visibly nervous, biting his nails as Suwa calmly steps onto the stage. Unlike Sugishita, Suwa's background is a puzzle. He wasn't part of Bofurin during middle school, and no one knows much about his skills, except that he was supposedly a prodigy. The fight begins, but Suwa doesn't throw a single punch. Instead, he gracefully dodges every attack, his movements so fluid they're almost hypnotic. His opponent grows increasingly frustrated, swinging wildly, but Suwa never falters. Watching from the sidelines, Sakura realizes Suwa is toying with his rival, not out of malice, but to teach him a lesson. It's revealed that Suwa's opponent was among those who laughed when one of their own teammates was struck during an earlier skirmish. Suwa, with his calm demeanor, uses the fight to deliver a poetic tit-for-tat. By evading every attack, he forces his opponent to confront his own inadequacies, both as a fighter and as a person. Just when the fight seems poised to escalate, Togame intervenes. He declares that Suwa's opponent is no longer a member of Shishin, confirming the man's worst fear. But instead of gloating, Suwa offers a parting lesson. Being an adult means having empathy. And empathy comes from imagination and experience. His words, though simple, land harder than any punch, leaving both his opponent and the audience in stunned silence. As the dust settles, it's clear that Suwa's style isn't just about strength. It's about strategy, wisdom, and a subtle kind of compassion. With 2 victories under their belt, Team Bofurin's confidence grows, but the tension in the Orion only thickens. The stage is set for the next battle, and it's clear that Shishin's remaining fighters won't go down without a fight. Seiko isn't just any opponent. He's among the top 5 powerhouses of Shishin and carries a grudge against Hiragi the size of a freight train. As the fight kicks off, Seiko wastes no time asserting his dominance, landing blow after blow on Hiragi. Things take a dramatic turn when Seiko delivers a brutal kick to Hiragi's back, leaving him crumpled on the ground. For a moment, it looks like Hiragi has been defeated. Seiko seizes the opportunity to trash-talk Furin and Hiragi, which riles up Sakura. But before Sakura can jump in, Umemiya steps in with a calm reminder. Hiragi isn't just anyone. He's one of the 4 kings of Bofurin and leads the Tamantan team. Umemiya explains the significance of Tamantan, aka Bishamantan, the god of war and battlefield tactician. His words seem prophetic as Hiragi stirs back to life like a resurrected warrior. The tides turn as Hiragi regains his composure, and the fight shifts dramatically in his favor. Cue a flashback, peeling back layers of history between Hiragi and Seiko. Once upon a time, Seiko was the bright, bullied kid who found himself cornered by classmates. Hiragi, ever the knight in shining armor, stepped in and taught the bullies a lesson. From that moment on, Seiko idolized Hiragi, and under Hiragi's tutelage, he learned how to fight. Seiko dreamed of following Hiragi's footsteps to Furin High to support his hero in becoming the strongest. But things didn't go as planned. Hiragi, already committed to backing Umemiya, gently encouraged Seiko to forge his own path. This left Seiko feeling betrayed, and he set out to become stronger by picking fights wherever he could. It was during this time that Choji and Togame recruited him to Shishin. Back in the present, the fight comes to a climactic finish. Hiragi, now fully in control, takes Seiko down but does so with care. As Seiko falls unconscious, Hiragi gently carries him to the side, ensuring Togame can't disrespect him. The gesture is poignant, a mix of old camaraderie and current rivalry. Returning to his seat, Hiragi is met with a sly question from Umemiya. Why hasn't he shared his history with Seiko? Hiragi brushes it off, and Umemiya, ever the easygoing leader, replies with a grin that he'll wait until Hiragi's ready to spill the beans. Togame lost in thought, reminiscing about a past battle. His brooding is interrupted by Choji, who shakes him out of his reverie to remind him it's his turn to fight. Sakura, eager for the showdown, jumps at the chance. The stage is set, and the two fighters face off under the roaring cheers of their respective crews. From the get-go, it's clear Togame is on a whole different level, faster, sharper, and more precise than any Shishin member Sakura has faced so far. Togame lands devastating blows, battering Sakura's face with ease, all while taunting him. He accuses Sakura of being just another bark-overbite fighter, reliant on the strength of his group rather than his own fists. But Togame's words hit a nerve. Sakura, recalling his past struggles against bullies who lorded their authority over him, surges with renewed determination. With a fiery counterattack, he shocks the audience and earns their stunned silence. Spitting his disdain for those who use power to crush others, Sakura declares he'll never lose to someone like Togame. The fight becomes more than a battle of fists. It transforms into a clash of ideologies. As Togame pins Sakura to the ground, Sakura throws verbal punches, accusing Shishin of being little more than a bully club, wielding their so-called devotion to power to terrorize the weak. His words land like a haymaker, hitting Togame where it hurts. Togame suddenly stops. He storms over to the Shishin lackeys responsible for chasing the middle schooler Bofurin was protecting and delivers a brutal punishment, leaving them unconscious. He returns to Sakura, apologizes for the delay, and stoically resumes the fight. Cue a deep dive into Togame's backstory, adding layers to his character. Togame wasn't always the feared second-in-command of Shishin. Once, he was a spirited fighter discovered by Choji, who encouraged him to join their group. In those days, Shishin wasn't the oppressive force it is now. It was a team, a family. Togame admired Choji's philosophy, where devotion to power meant freedom and self-expression, not domination. But things changed when Choji became the strongest. Power went to his head, and he decided Shishin needed to be just as strong, or ruthless, as he was. The shift was stark. One day, after a member was injured by a rival gang, Choji shocked everyone by kicking the injured fighter out instead of seeking revenge. His justification? Weakness had no place in Shishin. Togame was horrified. The friend he admired had twisted his ideals. Yet, instead of opposing Choji, Togame took it upon himself to play the villain, shielding Choji's original cheerful nature from the darkness he had created. Back in the present, Togame's resolve wavers under Sakura's relentless questioning. "What are you trying to do?" Sakura demands, his words echoing through the theater. Togame, shaken to his core, quietly asks himself the same. "What am I trying to do?" Picking up from the fiery showdown between Togame and Sakura, we dive straight back into the chaos. Togame continues to baffle Sakura as a walking contradiction. A member of the power-hungry Shishin who, oddly enough, believes there's no place for scumbags in their ranks. His earlier decision to punish the bullies who harassed a middle schooler shows that somewhere under that tough exterior lies a sense of honor, albeit one buried beneath layers of self-doubt. From Togame's inner monologue, it's clear he doesn't agree with Choji's tyrannical reign, but he's stayed silent, too paralyzed to act. As he spirals into a moral quandary, Sakura interrupts with a flying kick and a verbal mic drop. "No matter how strong my opponent, even if they saved my life, I don't look away or distort who I am." These words hit Togame like a spiritual sucker punch. He realizes that while Sakura stands unwavering in his beliefs, he himself has been dodging his own moral reflection. Inspired by Sakura's mid-fight life coaching, Togame finally gets serious. The two fighters let loose in what can only be described as a no-holds-barred, blood-soaked, fist-flinging conversation. To the crowd, it looks like two lunatics joyfully tearing each other apart, but for Togame and Sakura, It's an oddly therapeutic exchange of ideals. Eventually, they collapse onto the floor, bruised and bleeding but alive in every sense of the word. Lying there, Togame admits, "I didn't know fights could feel this good." But just as the tension builds toward a climactic final blow, Togame does the unthinkable. He lets Sakura land the punch and cheerfully declares, "I give up." Sakura, naturally, loses his mind at this anticlimactic twist. Before he can fully unleash his indignation, Choji steps in, ready to escalate things to the next level. Togame, in a moment of newfound resolve, tries to reason with Choji, asking him to stop the madness. But in true villain fashion, Choji silences him with a swift and merciless kick, snapping, "You lost, so stay quiet." Sakura nearly explodes in rage, but Umemiya steps in to stop him, knowing full well that it's his moment to shine. Choji, meanwhile, cranks up his narcissistic monologue, revealing his true colors to everyone present. He declares Shishin weak and outlines his grandiose plan to crush Bofurin and achieve his twisted version of freedom. Then, with reckless, beast-like movements that defy logic, he lunges at Umemiya. Suwa, ever the detached observer, comments dryly, "I've never seen such reckless movements." He's a natural-born monster. Meanwhile, poor Nirei looks like his soul has temporarily exited his body, frozen in a state of existential dread. As Umemiya engages Choji in an intense battle, Sakura silently vows to become a better fighter, inspired by the stakes and Choji's sheer, unrelenting arrogance. But as the fight drags on, it becomes clear. Choji is beyond redemption, blind to remorse or reason. After giving Choji one last chance to step back, Umemiya finally decides to end it, once and for all. The electrifying clash between Umemiya and Choji continues, but something feels off. While Umemiya trades blows with Choji, it's clear he's deliberately absorbing the onslaught. Choji, mid-barrage, starts to question reality. "Huh? That's weird. I'm landing all these hits." Cool as ever, Umemiya replies, "Your fists have no weight. Do you know why? It's because you're not fighting for anything." This declaration only fuels Choji's frenzy as he relentlessly swings at Umemiya. Between punches, Choji reaffirms his warped philosophy. "I just want to be free." Intrigued, Umemiya presses him. "What does freedom even mean to you?" Choji's response? "Freedom is when I'm having fun." But as Umemiya digs deeper with his questions, Choji starts unraveling. Desperate, he loses his composure and begins throwing wild, mindless punches before taking things to a feral level, biting Umemiya's throat like he's auditioning for a zombie flick. The audience is stunned, but Umemiya stays composed, delivering a line that feels like therapy mid-battle. "It's okay. There's an answer in your heart." He then brings up a pivotal memory, reminding Choji of a time when Shishin and Bofurin were at odds. Back then, Choji was surrounded by his team, genuinely happy and enjoying life. As Choji struggles with the weight of these words, Umemiya lands a dramatic, friendship-fueled headbutt to jog his memory and his sense of reality. What follows is a flood of flashbacks that reveal the truth. Choji's rise to the top wasn't the liberation he imagined. Instead, it felt like wandering a lonely desert. In his past, surrounded by teammates, he had fun and felt free. But the moment he reached the summit, he was isolated, burdened by his title, and consumed by an empty pursuit of power. In this moment of clarity, Choji looks to Togame, who breaks down in guilt, apologizing for leaving him feeling alone. But Choji, in a rare moment of accountability, corrects him. "It wasn't you. It was me. I focused so much on the goal, like a treasure hunt, that I didn't see the emptiness waiting at the end." Finally, Choji apologizes to Togame and accepts the truth he had avoided for so long. He then turns to Umemiya, acknowledging his defeat and offering Shishin to him as the victor. But in classic Umemiya style, he replies with comedic timing, "Huh? Hell no." Instead, Umemiya suggests something groundbreaking. "Let's just be friends." The crowd is dumbfounded, jaws collectively hitting the floor. Shishin and Bofurin, after all the chaos, might just be on the verge of an unexpected alliance. The long-standing clash between Shishin and Bofurin finally reaches a resolution, and what better way to seal the peace than with food? The Bofurin team sits down to share a meal with none other than Choji and Togame. Naturally, Sakura is baffled. Why are we breaking bread with our opponents? But before he can get a straight answer, Togame bows his head, apologizing for Shishin's actions, with Choji sheepishly following suit. Amused by Togame's new humble streak, Umemiya smirks and lays it down for him. You absolutely have to become a really cool guy. No more lame stuff. Togame nods like he's just been handed a life mission. Over dinner, Choji, still riding the high of personal growth, asks Umemiya the million-dollar question. How do you have so much fun while being at the top? Umemiya, in his typical laid-back wisdom, explains, It's simple. I like having people around me. No one gets to the top alone. It's the team that lifts you up. He goes on to reveal that being a leader wasn't his dream gig. He just wanted to make some wishes come true, but once he became the leader, those wishes became everyone else's. To honor that, he vowed never to lose. After the heartfelt meal, the Bofurin team heads back to their turf, leaving Choji and Togame to stew in regret over their villainous past. But hey, on the bright side, Choji's back to being his bubbly, goofy self. When the Bofurin team arrives at Kotoha's cafe, they're greeted by Sasaki, who apologizes for all the trouble he caused. Umemiya, ever the magnanimous leader, reassures him with a warm smile. Not missing a beat, Umemiya turns the cafe into party central, throwing a welcome bash for Sakura and hilariously refusing to let him leave. As the festivities continue, Sakura, still grappling with his identity crisis, admits to himself that he can't reach the top alone. When Umemiya asks about his conversation with Togame, Sakura looks confused until Umemiya clarifies, I don't mean psychic talk. I mean fighting as a way to convey something and accept what's conveyed. Fists are older than words. It's primal communication. Blushing slightly, much to his embarrassment, Sakura listens as Umemiya praises him. You're a good person, Sakura. The compliment flusters him, and he yells that his goal was to become the strongest. But now he's not so sure. He feels isolated, unable to accept others, and thus unable to form a team. Nirei, who swoops in with a comforting reminder. You told me I wasn't lame, didn't you? That means you've already started accepting others. Umemiya doubles down, explaining that to truly have a conversation with someone, you need to accept them, and that happens when you want to know them. Since Sakura had an epic conversation with Togame, he's more than capable of accepting others. As the night winds down, the conversation turns to Sakura's ambitions of taking Umemiya's spot at the top. This, of course, sets off Sugishita, Umemiya's self-proclaimed #1 fan, who immediately challenges Sakura to a duel. Sakura, Suwa, and Nirei, soaking in their well-deserved spotlight after taking on Shishin. Back in class, the trio meets their new classmate, Tsujura. Flashy, athletic, and hilariously obsessed with virtues, Tsujura is the kind of guy who turns every interaction into a motivational speech. Naturally, Nirei is starstruck and dives headfirst into his secret notebook of random trivia, which Tsujura proudly dubs his virtue. True to form, Tsujura insists they all grab food together. While most of the class gives him a hard pass, he manages to drag Suwa and Sakura along, with Nirei enthusiastically tagging behind. At the cafe, Tsujura's health-conscious diva side takes center stage, but the real chaos begins when they run into another classmate, Mitsuki Kiryu. Nirei's instant switch to full-on fanboy mode is rivaled only by Sakura blushing when Kiryu enters with a girl on his arm. Is she his girlfriend? Meanwhile, Tsujura's hyperactive antics unintentionally scare the girl, earning Kiryu's classic deadpan critique. You know, people might find you terrifying. Instead of escalating into a brawl, this awkward exchange ends with Tsujura whispering a series of over-the-top apologies, turning a tense moment into an unexpectedly funny one. Just as Kiryu and the girl prepare to leave, trouble looms. A gang ambushes them, bent on revenge. Turns out, Kiryu had stepped in to save the girl from harassment earlier, and the sore loser brought backup. Enter Bofurin. Sakura charges in, kicking one of the gang members and declaring, "Surrounding someone with a ton of guys? How lame. I hate guys like you." And just like that, the fists start flying. Tsujura, ever the drama king, encourages his opponent to hit him. When the gang member obliges, Tsujura dramatically hits the ground, only to spring back up and knock the guy out. With a triumphant grin, he proclaims, "I let the opponent shine, then I step into the limelight. That's my virtue." Flashy? Sure. Effective? Absolutely. Meanwhile, Kiryu's strategy seems to involve slyly deflecting opponents towards Sakura, who yells in exasperation. But the truth comes out. Kiryu is prioritizing the safety of the girl and Nirei. Suwa, ever the dependable teammate, reassures him with a calm "go all out. I'm right here." The fight wraps up in Bofurin's favor, with Tsujura shouting their epic motto, "Anyone who causes pain, brings destruction, or holds evil in their heart will be purged by Bofurin without exception." After safely seeing the girl off, the group begins to warm up to each other. Kiryu even borrows Sakura's phone to add his number, only to discover his sole contact is weather. Cue the teasing. "From now on, we'll have to ask you for the weather, Sakura-kun." The next day at Kotoha's cafe, Sakura proudly celebrates his upgraded social life, 5 contacts and counting. Seeing his excitement, Kotoha sweetly adds her number too. Their group chat lights up with messages, but when Sakura questions, "Why talk over smartphones? We'll see each other at school," he's swiftly outpaced by his tech-savvy peers. His painfully slow typing leaves him stuck on old topics while the others breeze ahead, much to his frustration. At school, still ranting about the grade captain, Sakura's day takes another twist when 3 intimidating upperclassmen arrive. Inomoto, grade captain, and his 2 secondary captains, Kasumi and Kaji, representing the Taman team. It's time for the first years to choose their grade captain. Just as things get serious, Suwa raises his hand, only to nominate Sakura. Suwa nominating Sakura as the grade captain of the first years, much to Sakura's shock and internal screaming. While Sakura is busy panicking, "Me? A leader?" His friends and classmates rally behind the idea. Torn between self-doubt and the weight of his new responsibilities, Sakura reflects on leadership ideals he's picked up from Umemiya, convinced that leaders need a grand vision, something he's sure he doesn't have. Enter Kaji, the quiet but sharp grade captain of the second years from the Taman team. Kaji's sudden acknowledgement of Sakura as the first-year grade captain seals the deal, and any debate comes to an end. Cue Sakura's reluctant acceptance, with Nirei and Suwa stepping in as his trusty secondary captains. On their first patrol, Sakura and Kaji cross paths with an elderly lady searching for her missing girl. Brimming with heroics, they launch into a search mission, only to realize that the girl is, in fact, a very agile cat. The chase leads Sakura to rooftops and, ultimately, into chaos as the cat leaps into a river. Without hesitation, Kaji dives in to rescue the feline like some aquatic superhero. Mission accomplished. The cat is returned, and the grateful old lady rewards the group with snacks, lifting their spirits. While everyone is enjoying the treats, Sakura takes the chance to ask Kaji an important question. "Why did you accept the role of grade captain? Do you have any big goals?" Surprisingly, Kaji reveals that he was also chosen by his peers. He doesn't have some grand agenda. He simply relies on his secondary captains to cover his shortcomings. "So, to live up to them, I do what I can," he says with refreshing honesty. This insight sparks a lightbulb moment for Sakura. Wait, it's okay not to have some big goal? They chose me because they trust me? The next day, Sakura is sleep-deprived and spiraling over his newfound responsibilities. While venting to Kotoha at her cafe, she drops a casual but brilliant suggestion. You never call people by their names. Maybe that's where you should start as grade captain." Inspired, Sakura decides to give it a shot. Back at school, Nirei takes it upon himself to drill Sakura on the names and faces of their classmates, all while brimming with enthusiasm. As if on cue, all grade captains and their secondaries are summoned to the rooftop by none other than Umemiya. On the rooftop, Nirei shares a heartfelt moment, declaring his intention to support Sakura and Suwa by doing what he does best, memorizing the names of everyone in school. "Hey, Every team needs its MVP, right? For the first time, Sakura genuinely addresses Nirei and Suwa by their names, marking a small but meaningful step in his leadership journey. Just when things seem calm, the four kings of Furin High arrive in dramatic fashion, flanked by their secondaries, like some royal entourage straight out of an anime finale. What awaits Sakura and his team? The stage is set for a thrilling confrontation. Sakura and the first-year grade captains, along with their secondaries, stand face-to-face with the four kings of Bofurin High. Nirei takes the lead, eagerly introducing the formidable heads of Bofurin's elite teams: Tsuku Tsubakino, Jikoku Team; Saka Mizuki, Komoku Team; Takumi Momoso, Zojo Team; and Toma Hiragi, Taman Team. Cue awe and respect as these powerhouses make their presence felt. Umemiya himself delivers a heartfelt welcome, thanking the grade captains for their efforts and emphasizing their crucial role in supporting their friends and the town. With this, the captains feel the weight and pride of their new responsibilities. But there's no rest for the weary. Later, as Sakura and his friends stroll through town, they encounter a shadowy group of hooded strangers, the infamous Keel, a dangerous team with a sinister reputation. While the gang is still processing this ominous sighting, they stumble upon Anze, one of their classmates, injured and trying to hide his bruises. Despite their concern and encouragement, Anze brushes it off, slapping on a fake smile before rushing off. Behind the scenes, Anze meets with a childhood friend, revealing the emotional backstory of a third member in their once-close trio, Nagato. Known for his quiet kindness, Nagato has now fallen into the clutches of Keel. Anze's friend reveals that it all started when Anze caught a purse snatcher in town, only to discover it was Nagato himself, a Keel member. Anze, driven by loyalty and guilt, has been trying to save Nagato but fears dragging Bofurin into his personal struggles. Unbeknownst to Anze, Sakura has been tailing him, classic Sakura move. After overhearing the story, Sakura meets Anze's friend and promises to help bring Nagato back, reaffirming the Bofurin creed. We protect everyone. Back at school, the drama escalates when Anze receives a mysterious letter containing a picture of Nagato being beaten by Keel and instructions for Anze to meet at a specific location. In a heated exchange, Sakura finally gets the full story. After the purse-snatching incident, Anze followed Nagato and witnessed Keel's brutal treatment of him for failing to bring enough money. When Anze tried to intervene, he barely escaped with his life, leaving Nagato behind. The image of Nagato crying, despite his strength, has haunted Anze ever since. Sakura, ever the loyal classmate, insists on going with Anze to confront Keel, emphasizing the bond of their shared classroom. Just as this heartfelt moment unfolds, the rest of their class, who has been eavesdropping all along because anime logic, rises as one. Their declaration? We're all going together. In a powerful display of camaraderie, the entire class mobilizes, ready to face Keel as a united front. Meanwhile, the second-year grade captains, led by Choji, notice the exodus of their juniors and prepare to step in. The stage is set for an epic confrontation as Bofurin's spirit of friendship and justice collides with Keel's dark chaos.